Good evening, everybody. Welcome to week 2 of TGP2. We are still in the midst of this brand new season, and we had 2 very exciting rounds last time out. We are now at the minute, though, here in Canada, and a bit later we will be in Brazil. So 2 very, very entertaining circuits on the way. And right now, you can see that the man on pole is the man currently leading this championship after the first 2 rounds. It's Jacko on 40 points, and he is 5 points ahead of Dom on 35, who of course unfortunately had those problems with his internet connection, didn't he, in Imola. He very well could have been leading this championship going into tonight. And we have Chris Johnson in third, a little way back on 22 points. That's 18 points behind. And then we have a load of drivers who are all behind each other by a point. Wheeler 21 points, Mike Noon 20, Cena 19, Poop Cannon 18. So it just shows how unbelievably close this championship is so far this season. And as you say, Jacko currently on pole, but there's still 3 minutes to go in this qualifying session. And alongside me to watch the action, as usual, is Roy.
Yeah, good evening, Daniel. Yeah, it's once again, early stages in the season, but it's impossible to kind of pick out a favourite at this very early stage in the championship. Just on board with Paul McGee, of course, standing in again for yet another week. He's in the Alfa Romeo this week. His DRS is open down into the final chicane with the Wall of Champions, with the Quebec wall on the outside, and he's kept it within track limits, so he will get a lap time on the board. Currently 19th, but he crosses the line, and it's a very respectable P8 at the moment, so he's ahead of the likes of Chris Johnson, M. Shep and Sayer Sports, and Baza, so that's a pretty decent showing, and I don't think he'll have enough time, though, to set another lap, so I think it'll be P8 at best for the Alfa Romeo. But yeah, as you said, championship leader Jacko is currently the one on pole position. He'll be very happy with that, as will Blair Grills on the front row, but there is still a bit of time for drivers to improve.
Yeah, we're going to have the final runs any moment now, as you say. But yeah, very solid second place to win in full Blair Grills. But we should also say that we do believe that this is going to be a wet race. There is an 83% chance of rain, I think it is, coming into the start of this race. But then it's going to reduce as the race goes on. So there is a possibility that we could have a wet to dry race here in Canada, which would be fantastic to watch. And just wonder, will that perhaps be affecting possible setups for this race, and we may not be able to see people's true quali pace?
Yeah, I think it is definitely something that people will bear in mind. Whenever it is a wet race, people may do things with their suspension to give themselves more of a stable rear end. But yeah, it's hard to tell though. Track position around here, without DRS, it can be quite important because the braking zones tend to not really be that big, and there is an emphasis on traction. As Mike Noon takes provisional pole by a 1/10 of a second, and Neljack's had some issues out there with stereogram. It's picked up a 5-place penalty.
The second chicane he's gone off. There's a lot of people having to slow down for traffic at the minute. We've got Shepherd in the wall here. Seems like a lot of people are having a few problems, and Dom was improving, but he's invalidated his lap. So I'm not sure how long's left in the session, 30 seconds, so he might be able to get one more lap in.
Kaya's crashed at the final chicane, so that's his qualifying done. Stereogram finds himself in the runoff, so he won't be improving. Is Mike Noon going again out there? Well, he's invalidated his lap anyway. But Jacko is going again, but his first sector isn't great.
And Cena was trying to go again, but he spun. So that's him out the session. Chris Johnson also crashed at the Wall of Champions. Cena's been disqualified for going the wrong way. When he was spun round, he was trying to recover. So he's gone from I think he was 4th place, wasn't he? Now he's going to have to start at the back.
Wow. Never a dull moment with Cena out on track. And no. There's often the strange disqualification that comes his way. But from P3 to, P last, P19... he will be very, very annoyed with that one, I've got to say.
Just watching Bazaria coming through the final corner, and then it's going to be Blair Grills just behind him. And Blair Grills, the other guys, can't really improve, but Blair Grills very much can. Can Blair Grills stick it on pole? Oh, he's messed up the final chicane.
What would his time have been? Not good enough, assuming he didn't back off, but yeah, he's going to be annoyed with that. Dom's on a lap, and he's getting a tow from his teammate.
Oh, he is. Now, can he time this perfectly? Is he going to dive into the pit lane? It might be a bit distracting. No, he pulls out the way. That was much better.
I would have pulled into the pit lane, to be honest, but I suppose he's not getting any kind of interference into the chicane in terms of dirty air. So Dom across the line then, and he backs off.
No, to be honest, I think he was already going quite. I think he was already off as he was coming towards the line there. I don't think he was going to improve, and if he was going to improve, it was only going to be fractionally. So maybe he didn't want to use those particular tyres for the race, and has decided to settle for that 5th place start then. So a dramatic finish to qualifying. A lot of errors suddenly creeping into the drivers, and Cena sadly robbed of a decent starting position. He's down in 19th, and his teammate passes 17th. Stereogram in 16th on the medium tyres has out-qualified Parser. So I'm not sure how that's happened, but what a performance by him. And it's going to be interesting to see then what happens in this race with these potential wet conditions.
So a quick run through the grid then. We have Mike Noon taking a stellar pole position with a 109.7, with championship leader Jacko just behind, completing the front row. Blair Grylls takes an impressive third, with Magic Poop Cannon in 4th and Dom Smith rounding out the top 5. Daniel P. Wheelnut had some disconnection issues in that qualifying session, but still finds himself 6th on the grid. Paul McGee returns to the series once again and is in P7. I think he'll be pretty pleased with that. Chris Johnson is 8th, with M. Shep and Sayer Sports completing the top 10. Baz will be the first driver on fresh tyres, although I actually think they'll all be on fresh tyres because it'll be wet apparently, so that won't be an issue. But Jack, with a 5-place grid penalty, will actually start 17th, and after Baza then, it'll be Mick Schumacher, Red Bull Kim, Kaya and Stereogram, and Parsa will also jump up a place. He'll start 16th. And then we have the other drivers completing the grid there, with Cena most notably at the back of the grid. Parsa and Cena for AlphaTauri. Normally you'd expect them to be up the front of the grid, but they'll be at the back for this one, and let's see just how wet the track is, if indeed it starts wet at all. Well, it's wet. Okay.
It does indeed start wet, so it's really interesting to see what tyres they're going to start on. But as you say, the chance of rain is reducing as it goes on, so is it going to dry up come the end? That's all the big question, but it looks like the drivers are going to be starting on inters, just looking into some of the pit garages, but perhaps it's quite apt that Dom is starting in 5th place, because this is his 500th or 500th EGP2 race ever.
Well, let's see how he gets on then as the lights begin to illuminate on the gantry. And we're underway in Canada. Tentative start from Mike at the front, and I think Jacko has got a bit of a better run than him. And actually, no, he hasn't, because he lit up the rear tyres and he's into the grass as Dom jumps from 5th up to 2nd. So very impressive start from Dom in his 500th race. But Mike Noon crucially leads the race. Paul McGee is up to 5th, and we have a spinner at the back. I believe that was a Ferrari of Jacko. So Jacko has had more trouble at the beginning of this race. So he's now outside of the top 10. Blair Grylls is in 3rd place at the moment, with M. Shep making a very good start from the lower end of the top 10 up to P5 as they funnel through the first sector, and a big dive bomb there from Paul McGee. I don't think that was intentional. I think he just lost control of the car. But Paul McGee is now up to 5th. Chris Johnson is 6th as Paul McGee spins, and Cena is somehow up to P7 after starting last. Parsa and Cena are in the top 8 after starting at the back of the grid. So a fantastic start from AlphaTauri. But Dom Smith now leads this race. I believe Mike Noon has made a mistake, and down the inside, they've made contact.
And Blair Grylls has gone deep.
Blair Grylls has gone deep, and somehow somehow Dom leads the race. So after all of that, after contact, Cena's now in the top 5. So it's Dom from Magic Poop Cannon, from Chris Johnson, who's got quite the run on Poop Cannon now into the chicane. Will he throw it up the inside? Now he thinks better of it. I think he'd be happy with that, going from P8 to P3, as there's a bit of a moment coming out of the chicane. Mike Noon pits then, so our pole sitter has picked up damage and is now into the pits.
Cena's in 4th place now. Chris Johnson lost it at the final corner and went into the sides of Shepard, who slowed him down. And Cena is now in 4th. He's at the back. He's got to 4th place in a lap.
That's 15 places gained on the first lap around Canada. You know Canada, the narrow track with all the walls where there's not a lot of space. So 15 places gained for Cena then, and 11 places gained for Parsa on lap 1. M-Shep goes deep into that chicane. Parsa may make it 12, but don't think he will on this occasion. But we have action further back as Jacko tries to recover the ground that he lost early on in the race. I don't think he particularly likes wet conditions, but he's now past Neljak in the Williams and is now up into P8, but he misses the chicane. Probably will pick up a warning for that one, but Jacko's now back up into P8.
That's got to be one of the wildest open laps of a TGP2 race I've ever seen. We had drivers going up to the front, down to the bottom. We had Blair Grills, who was in the lead, went way too deep at the hairpin. Now he's down into 10th place. Jacko's managed to recover slightly, but still is only in 8th place. And is Cena now going to go for Chris Johnson to get into the top 3 without even completing 2 laps on the brakes? Chris Johnson runs a bit wide. I think there was enough space given there, but they're going to be side by side here, going down into turn 1, I think. But has Cena got that extra grunt as he uses ERS to solidify a 3rd place after 2 full laps?
And another thing with Cena, he tends to show great pace when it is wet. So Cena here, he's already in contention for the win after starting in P19 on the 3rd lap of this race. And he's within 3 seconds of Dom in the lead. So Cena then, a fantastic opening lap, of course aided by some of the drama that went on ahead of him, but still he picked his way through it. As Stereogram is our first retirement of the session. It's at turn 5.
Chicane.
Oh, sorry, no, I've misread the map. But virtual safety car, as you said. So I think that'll be a relief to some, but an annoyance to potentially most out there, because there's a lot of drivers who I don't think will be too pleased with how their race started. Let's just have a look at the position change then. So Cena up 16 places. Parsa is up 10 places. I've got he started 16th instead of 17th thanks to Nailjack's penalty. Mr. Johns made up 6 places. Nailjack up 8. So the biggest losers then. Jacko has lost 6. Blair Grills losing 7. Mike Noonan, of course, our pole sitter, is currently running in P17. He's behind Kaya in the Mercedes.
Went into the back of Dom, didn't he, at the hairpin? And Wheelnut also, I think he disconnected. You can see he's just rejoined. He's in 15th. So they're all totally jumbled up.
And M-Shep then, he's not too far off the back of Chris Johnson. So Chris Johnson tends to lack a little bit of pace, but then it's just always there. Keeps himself in play if things happen ahead of him. Well, for the most part anyway. And I think that could be the case yet again today, as the virtual safety car comes to an end. Pretty inconvenient timing for Cena, I would say. Gets a bit squirrely on the exit of that chicane. Chris Johnson runs very wide through turn 5 and nearly hits the inside wall for turn 6, but it's all under control. But Dom then leads the race. Magic Poop Cannon, he's pretty close behind. It's an Alpine 1-2 at the moment. And Cena, though, he's right there with them. Can't quite get an interval just yet. That will happen when they cross the line, as M-Shep picks up yet another 3-second penalty.
And he hit the wall as well. He's going to have front wing damage, so he's got 2 penalties, and he's going to have front wing damage now. Might have to pit here, and Parsa is going to want to get through as soon as he possibly can. Is he going to try and sneak down the inside here? Surely Shepard is going to be heading for the pit lane.
Yeah, I think he will. Oh, and this is the worst possible position that M-Shep can be in. You don't want to be on the inside when you're heading into the pits. So M-Shep, hopefully he'll just play it smart and remember that he has to actually take the chicane. He's carrying on, which, well, who knows? It could work out in the end. We've seen incidents happening all over the race. I mean, I think just staying on the track at this point will get you a good position. But Cena then, he's within a second of Magic Poop Cannon, but it is worth remembering there is no DRS in these conditions. So there's no DRS detection point to worry about. It's going to have to be done on pure slipstream and for the DRS deployment alone. But it looks like it's not really raining at this stage. The track, of course, is still way too wet for slicks, or even thinking about slicks. But to me, it looks like the rain has actually stopped.
No, it's still on my screen. It's still raining, but I think we've had this confusion before. I remember a race at Imola where it was raining on your screen, it wasn't on mine, and vice versa. So we can't say for sure, but certainly on my screen I can still see rain.
Yeah,
not as much as initially.
It's spitting a little bit, yeah, but it's very, very light coverage at the moment as Blair Grills passes M-Shep, which I suppose you would expect with the damage that M-Shep has sustained. I'm not sure why he didn't pit. But I suppose he's waiting. For some kind of potential safety car. He gets a very poor exit from his Haas, and will Nailjack have the momentum to pass him into the chicane? I don't think he will. I think he'll be too far back. But I think M-Shep, looking at the pace that he's losing, he'll be better off just going into the pits. And will he decide to do that? No, he won't. He's staying out. But look at that. He's basically missed the second part of the chicane. So I don't know why he's continuing to do this. Can Nailjack then go around the outside at turn 1? Bearing in mind M-Shep will understeer with that damage, but M-Shep brakes very early and basically lets the Williams through. The Williams, who barely makes the corner, but still crucially keeps 2 tyres on the track. And that is Nailjack up into P9.
And we've seen Chris Johnson set the fastest lap just a moment ago, and the top 4 are starting to all close in a little bit now. And how long will it be before we see some possible overtakes? And of course, if it does dry up, let's not forget that the 2 Alpines, it's an Alpine 1-2 right now, and they will sort of have to work out when to pit and when not to pit. As Basil looks like he's had a bit of a spin. He's got going again though, but he has just lost 2 positions to Blair Grills and to Jacko. So that's him down to 8 now. Don't know if he's got damage or not. I don't think he has, but not good for him. But the top 4 are all closing up to each other, and Mike Noonan has cashed out the race.
Now, will that bring out... Oh, it
is.
will.
This is a full safety car. Yeah, I mean, the car is in the middle of the road on the racing line, so it had to be a safety car. Now, who will pit? Will anyone stay out? Is it going to start raining? Are they going to wait for it to switch to dries? Let's see. Dom stays out. Poop Cannon stays out. I imagine they're all going to stay out, aren't they?
You'd imagine
Shep,
so.
who really should pit.
Shep should definitely pit, yeah. He will probably drop... I think he'll only lose 2 places. He'll be ahead of his teammate, I think, because there's a very short pit lane around here. So let's see. Yeah, he pits. So I think that's probably what he was waiting for. But I mean, he may as well have just pitted. I mean, the time he would have lost under normal racing conditions versus under a safety car, like, you know, it's basically cancelled itself out by staying out those extra 2 or 3 laps. Like, so he's not. There was no real point.
And we've got a car on dry tyres. And Shepard and Joe Sayer have both got onto dries.
Now, surely...
And it has stopped raining on my screen as well, by the way. Just looking at the onboard cameras, the rain has stopped.
Oh! Has Joe got damage coming out of the pits? He did. And
he did hit the wall.
Okay, obviously, currently it's not slick conditions, but we knew that. But the question is, when the safety car comes in, because, you know, we're going to have another lap under the safety car at least, and whilst right now it's not ready for dry tyres, in a few minutes it might be. And
hang on a minute, look at this. Oh, sorry, Poop Cannon backed right off there. I thought he was planning on letting Dom pit there so he could then follow in without having to queue, because he backed him right off, and Dom was way ahead of the rest of the field, but he's closed back in a little bit now. So I'm not sure what's going to happen here, as Kaya's been off the road. Kaya's just put dry tyres on.
Shep has been off the road, though.
Yeah, he has. Wheelnut has been lapped there, hasn't he? Because obviously he keeps disconnecting and reconnecting because of us. And look, Poupin's doing it again. Now this is an obvious ploy, surely. If they're both going to pit for dry tyres, does Dom pit? No, Dom stays out. Well, and Poupin stays out.
And
Shep's crashed out.
So... gone from bad to worse for Shep then. That promotes Mick Schumacher into the points. But those on dry tyres, then it's just Joe and potentially Neljak here.
And Red Bull Kim and Paul are both on mediums as well. Got the tyre graphics up on my screen right now. Kaya also is on soft tyres. But is Neljak going to put... No, he
hasn't. Okay.
Did he change his front wing, or is he... I'm not sure what happened there, but he didn't put dry tyres on.
Now let's see what I'm going to do here. I'm going to bring up the gap to the leader, and let me see what's happening here. So Joe is going a little bit quicker. Yeah,
well, Red Bull, Kim and Paul are definitely struggling. Paul's got no front wing. I think Paul might just had a crash at the race of champions at the Wall of Champions there.
Different event.
Paul's got no front wing, and he's actually parking up, I think, to let the cars go through. I'm not sure what happened, but that's Paul with no front wing now. And is it this lap that the race is going to resume?
You'd imagine so. Joe Sayer will catch the back of the queue, which is something I wasn't able to do in Brazil when I tried this, so I suppose it's a little bit better. So this could work out. It's not raining, surely. It's not just me. I haven't got my glasses on, but I'm pretty sure there are no drops of rain on the screen. So Joe Sayer then, he's caught the back of the pack. He's not gonna... He will drop off these guys. But it's a question of, you know, once he hits the crossover point, he'll be fine. And it is a question of whether the pack will be far enough ahead. So...
Well, I suppose he could spend the time battling as well, couldn't he? Which could help him. But let's see what happens
coming in
then.
Oh, it is coming in.
It is coming in. It is coming in. And
Dom's already gone.
And he's got a huge gap already to Poop Cannon.
Got a 1 second lead already then, make that 8/10. But so Magic Poop Cannon, don't know if he was deliberately holding back to help his teammate, because of course he is a reserve for this week. But Magic Poop Cannon then He's lagging behind his teammate by 8 tenths of a second, and Cena then is quite close to the back of Poop Cannon. So maybe, yeah, Magic Poop Cannon is defending Dom from Cena, but I suppose they're still in the ballpark really, because Dom's not really pulling away, and he wasn't pulling away throughout that first stint. As Paul McGee retires on
Pulls
the
out.
exit
It's
of
right
the
in the pit
final
lane.
chicane.
I think it's in the pit lane.
In the pits, okay.
Yeah, he retires in the pit lane. But Mr. John Pissett there, but he kept the inters on, I think. Oh no, he's saving his drive-through, wasn't he? And Baz has pitted for mediums, so Baz are now also on medium tyres. Mr. John came in to save his drive-through, but Baz got a 5-second penalty for speeding as he came in.
And Joe is losing time out there. He's losing quite a bit of time actually, but he's already 13 seconds down. He kind of needs the crossover point to happen now, because it's a very short pit lane around here. If it was Silverstone or something, he'd still be ahead, but he's 14 seconds off the lead now, which was 12 seconds about one sector ago. So he's losing time hand over fist here. He's nowhere near the apex of the chicane. So he's really struggling out there. It's a very short pit lane as well.
Guys at the front stay out there. I thought Baz Blair Girls would line up a move there on Jacko, but he hasn't gone for it. Cena's closed in on Poop Cannon for second place. Oh, he's just through corners, just arrived in time there. Poop Cannon. Dom's gone a little bit wide there into turn 2, but I think Poop Cannon at the minute is having to spend his time trying to defend from the charging Cena.
Yeah, so Poop Cannon then, despite the battling that is going on between these two, Dom is still only 1.1 seconds clear. We do have a yellow flag out there, but I think it's already been cleared, so our race will resume as normal. But Sayre Sports has been passed by Mick Schumacher and is now 19 seconds off the lead, so I think he's already over a pit stop behind. However, he's still... yeah, he needs the crossover to happen literally right now, otherwise I think he has lost ground. Because, of course, he wasn't at the front to begin with, but...
it's first sector on this lap, 23.6 for Dom, 25.6 for Josiah.
Oh, Cena. Oh, Cena spun. He braked too late, and he's got to be careful where he reverses and rejoins. But Cena then drops to P7. I don't know if he was trying an overtake there or if he just missed his braking point, but either way, he's tapped the back of Magic Poop Cannon and he has gone for a spin. I don't think he would have sustained any damage. It looked like tyre-to-tyre contact. But no damage done for Poop Cannon anyway. He will resume as normal in P2 as Jacko decides now is the time to pit. Now, is that for damage or is that for dry tyres? Let's go on board with the Ferrari driver.
He did get passed by Blair Grills on that lap just as we were watching Cena spinning.
That's
so
soft.
There was contact. No, yeah, it is. It's a pit stop then for soft tyres.
Well, let's see how that works out then. Normally the key moment when you kind of know it's just slightly too late is when you see DRS enabled. So I think that will be the key here. If Jacko sees that on this lap, then he will definitely have pitted at the right time. And he comes out just ahead of Sayre Sports. And let's see how Jacko handles these conditions here, because well, Joe is still not really with the pace, and neither is Jacko at the moment, because Mick Schumacher is pulling away just ahead of him. I think he's pitted maybe 2 laps too early. I don't think this is working out too well, or certainly not working out well for Joe. Anyway, he was 6 seconds slower on the last lap, and he was a second and a half slower on that first sector. So at the minute, it's still looking like the inters are the tyre to be on, despite the fact that it clearly looks like the rain stopped and there's not much spray anymore. But we haven't seen any message to say DRS disabled and enabled even. And we start lap 12 here, 6 laps to go. And the top 9 are all still on inters, and Cena's race is sadly going from bad to worse now. He's just picked up a penalty. I think, though, it will go to dry tyres, and I think it will go to dry tyres early enough for staying out on inters to be the wrong call. I think, well, I don't know, it depends. I think lap 14 is kind of the latest that I would want to pit, because you will gain heaps of time if you are on slick tyres and it's the right tyre to be on. But obviously you will lose heaps of time, as we've seen with Joe, who is now 29 seconds off the lead. So it was about 10 when the safety car came in. But if we get a safety car right now, everyone should come into the pits.
Yeah, I think you're probably right on that. Just watching, I was looking at Jacko's final sector there. It wasn't too bad. It wasn't massively off, so it is slowly beginning to come to him, I suppose. You see Dom crawling through the hairpin, must be on the very edge right now. As look at Parson and Chris Johnson, suddenly it's closed right up here. And he had Cena challenging him earlier, now he's got Parson challenging him. And is he going to try and possibly have a go? He's using the ERS. Can he close in? I'd be surprised. It'd be a bold attempt to go for the move there, but Chris Johnson coming under pressure, and Chris Johnson actually pits.
So Chris Johnson opts to pit then. Blair Grylls is joining the fight, as was Cena recovering from his spin, but Blair Grylls then, Cena sets the fastest lap of the race, proving that he had a lot of underlying pace. Sarah Sport's actually gone for a spin at the hairpin. I don't think that will cause any kind of interruption to the race. Looks like he's avoided any kind of damage, but Baza will breeze past the Aston Martin 4P11. But let's have a look at this battle then for P3, because Blair Grylls looks very interested in passing the AlphaTauri for the podium places.
Does indeed, and it's going to be interesting to see then if these guys do pit and where they'll filter out compared to Chris Johnson, who's just now coming out the pit lane on those soft tyres. Blair Grylls closing in now on Parser. It's 1.7 seconds the gap out in front. DRS has been enabled. DRS has been enabled. Has Chris Johnson
Chris Johnson, yeah, he's gaining huge amounts of time here. The gap was over 26 seconds when he came out the pits. It's now just, it's gone back up actually, as he made a mistake. But I think he has. Don't tell me he's got damage, because he's timed that perfectly. So the gap now 26.1. He's gaining. It's even right now. It's like on the crossover point.
And Dom's
Dom pits. And I think that's the right decision. Poop Cannon pits.
They're all going to come in. Parser stayed out. Parser's continued. Is he going to try and get to the end? Blake Hill stays out as well. And Cena, who's got the penalty. So the AlphaTauri is obviously not fancying it. But the two Alpines certainly are. And look at Poop Cannon down to queue here. This is valuable time being wasted. But Dom, is he going to come out in a net lead? I assume he will.
I think Poop Cannon may have been better to stay out, because he was going to lose time either way. But I think he would have lost slightly less time had he stayed out. But let's see then. Chris Johnson is the man on the move. He's just behind as the car in front moves out of the way in some rather strange fashion. But
well, Jacko sets the fastest lap then, so it is definitely the dry tyres, the tyre to be on. Dom is out the pit lane, way ahead of Chris Johnson. So can Dom catch up to these guys, assuming that they stay out in the next 4 laps? He probably, he surely will, but it just depends if he makes a mistake or not on these dry tyres. I mean, at the minute, the last lap was the lap to pit, wasn't it, basically?
I think so, yeah. I mean, Chris Johnson may have picked up a tiny bit of damage, because he's got Jacko all over the back of him, although Jacko did look the quicker driver in dry conditions to begin with. But Chris Johnson then, I think he may have made a little bit of a mistake at the chicane in that second sector then. But Dom, he is closing in a little bit.
Oh, he's continuing, Barca. And is Cena coming in? Cena is coming in. So Cena's coming in. Blake Hill stayed out. Parcer's going to try and get to the end, isn't he? And he hasn't got a penalty either.
So it's interesting here. I think at that point you had to pit that last lap or never, because there's not a whole lot of time left in this race. I think Dom will still be able to get the win here, because it's going to keep getting drier and drier. But Dom, he's not really reeling them in as I expected him to do so, although saying that, he's just taken 4/10 of a second out of Parsa coming out of turn 2. So let's see then, it's going to keep getting drier and drier, and I think laps 16, 17 and 18, the last 3 laps, Parsa
is sliding all over the place here, and Blake Hill's actually closed in quite a bit there. Blake Hills ended up having to go for a position here, but Blake Hills has got a penalty, so it would be disastrous for him if that was to happen. But Dom is closing in now very, very quickly, I think. And Blake Hill's only 6/10 behind Parsa. Could Blake Hills possibly fancy a move down this straight?
I've got the gap now. I don't have the interval gap. I have the gap to the leader, and Dom, he is closing in, but it doesn't really seem to be enough. But then again, as I keep saying, it's going to get drier, and we still have 3 laps plus 1 sector to go. Dom's going to have DRS now on Meljack ahead. Parsa comes into the pits. That's definitely the wrong decision. He would definitely have been better off staying out. Yeah, I don't know what the point of that was, which kind of takes an element out of this race here, because Blair Grylls has that penalty, and I'm pretty sure Dom will at least close up that much. But because look at this, Dom is now only 9.1 seconds behind.
And he's just set a purple final sector, and is Parson going to get out ahead of Dom? I don't think he will. It's actually going to be a lot closer than I thought it would have been. But Parson he's lost the position, and he's actually very close to getting overtaken by Mick Schumacher, who's also not pitted in this race. just comes out ahead, and Poop Cannon as well. Remember, that's a Q. So Parsa now out on those fresh soft tyres, and Dom has got 8.3 seconds to find to close in on Blair Grills. But how many penalties does he have? He has 3 seconds, so he's just got to get within 3 seconds.
3 seconds then, so effectively he's got 4.8 seconds to catch up now. But he is catching him, and I think he will just about do it. But it's going to be tighter than I anticipated. So the Inters are holding up a good bit better. Blair Grills then surely will stay out. He's looking pretty good for a podium at the moment, because of course Neljak and Mick Schumacher have penalties.
Yeah, Mick Schumacher's doing a great job here of actually managing to hold up these guys on soft tyres. But eventually he's had to give way, and Buchan and Jacko both go through, and Chris Johnson, it might not be too long before he goes through either. Neljak is just closing in on taken by Parsa.
Cena appears from nowhere and barges his way past Mick Schumacher. Not entirely sure about the legality of that one. Looked a bit over ambitious. He set the fastest lap in the meantime. But Chris Johnson then goes around the outside of Mick Schumacher into turn 1, as the gap at the front is now just 4.9 seconds. And I would love to see Dom actually be able to complete the move out on track, because it makes you think Parsa has no penalties.
Poop Cannon's out the race.
Cannon's out of the race after running in P2.
At turn 6 is that. I'm not sure how he's done that. But
maybe that was
he
contact.
was battling with quite a few drivers. It may well have been. But Jacko goes through on Neljak then for 4th place. And it's going to come into the final lap, and there's a second between Dom getting into a net win here. And look at that. Look how much time he's gained on the exit corners there.
You gain
nearly
huge
a second.
time.
And, well, I'll tell you what. If Blair Grills didn't have a penalty, this would be some blockbuster finish. But at the minute, it looks like Dom is going to take the victory, as Jacko and Cena are now battling. Cena's got quite a few penalties in this race, but I think it's almost fair to say that he's been probably the quickest driver, hasn't he?
Yeah, Cena's just throwing away a lot of pace, and arguably Parsa has too, because he's currently running 3rd, but he should be P1, I'd say. So maybe it was then the wrong decision to pit. But can Dom do this on the road? He's really catching up now. The track is now bone dry. He's just the 1.8 seconds behind. I think Dom will be conscious of Blair Grills' penalty. I think Blair Grills did go a bit deep through there, and look at that. Oh, he's sliding all over the track now. And I think if Dom has any kind of opportunity, I don't think Blair Grills is going to be overly defensive, because surely he will also realise that he has a penalty and Dom does not. But look at this. Here we go then. I think Dom may just be able to do this on the track, because of course DRS has been enabled, because the track is dry enough for it. He needs to be careful he doesn't brake too late into the hairpin. But look at this. Look at Parsa. He's right behind them. But Parsa, of course, has a penalty too. But there goes Dom. He's already past Blair Grills, and he will get the DRS. But Blair Grills, luckily for him, will get a bit of a tow. He won't get DRS like Parsa will. Will Parsa throw it down the inside at the final corner? Because, of course, Parsa does have a penalty too. I think Parsa needs to just stay back. But out in front then, a masterful drive, and 2 wins now for Dom Smith this season, as Dom Smith wins in Canada. Blair Grills takes an excellent P2 after all of that. Parsa completes the podium. Jacko, after a horrendous start to the race, finishes in 4th, with Cena completing the top 5. What could have been for both of those AlphaTauri drivers. Chris Johnson, a solid drive to P6, with Neljak in 7th. Mr. John rises to P8 with Baza, and Mick Schumacher completing the top 10. Sayer Sports, he just pitted way too early, and the strategy really just fell apart for him. Red Bull Kim, yet to finish. Daniel P will not, actually, do you know what, even if Red Bull Kim crashes out, Red Bull Kim will get P12 for his efforts. Kaya will be classified in P14 after retiring at the end, but we have Magic Poop Cannon, Paul McGee, M. Shep, Mike Noon, our pole sitter, let's remember, and Stereogram out of the race. So,
what a way to pick up a win in your race number 500 of your TGP2 career. One of the most dramatic TGP2 races I've seen for some time. Fantastic stuff, highly entertaining throughout the field. But fair play to Blake Gills as well, and those inters for the entire race, getting to hold on to that second place. And driver today is Cena. He certainly had a wild day, and he ended up, what was it, 5th in the end? And,
It was indeed.
oh wow,
Oh, well.
dear. That's the second worst podium celebration I've seen this week.
I think I may have. There's a reference I'm not getting there.
Okay, some people will get it. But
Good.
anyway, Dom takes the victory, and Blake Gills.
I hope so.
Well, I'm sure some people will. Blake Gills, 0 stops. Look at that, second place. And look, his fastest lap was 3 seconds slower than Dom's, 5 seconds slower than Parsons. What a performance.
And look at that, the only drivers in the top 10 to not get a penalty were Dom and Mr. John. And Red Bull Kim also avoiding a penalty. Red Bull Kim's quite good at doing that, actually. He tends to not pick up penalties in races. I've already run through your race results, so I'll just scroll down to the bottom so that you can see them more clearly. But, well,
it's going to be a lot of...
Quite the event.
A lot of disappointed drivers after that, isn't he? Even if Parson pits a lap earlier, he still might have won it, mightn't he? Because I think he was probably quicker than Dom.
He did have that 3-second penalty though, so it's...
Oh, of course, yeah, he did have the penalty.
But
very true.
Yeah, but Parson, yeah, I mean, if he did pit a lap earlier, yeah, maybe, maybe would have been ahead of him. Maybe would have been in a position to overtake, but not quite sure. He would have been in a position to win with the penalties. But Cena, his fastest lap, I think, from what I could see there, was 0.8 quicker than anyone else, and that was on the mediums. So I think Cena was the one who, in terms of raw pace, was the quickest driver, as you said. But in the end, didn't quite work out for him. And we now move to Brazil, which is also known for its unpredictable weather, which means we're probably going to get a dry race, but who knows. It was TGP1 last season where we saw similar conditions to what we just had in Canada, and I think there were some drivers in that race who were thinking what could have been, but yeah, also an AlphaTauri. But yeah, I guess we'll see what happens. But yeah, 500 races for Dom, and he caps it off with a win, and he'll be very, very pleased with that one. He went winless the last time he did a season, and lost the title on countback, and yet here we are, 3 races in, he's won 2 of them.
And he was 5 points behind Jacko heading into tonight, so he's just obviously won this race, so a 13-point swing in that battle now, so I think he'll have something like possibly a 10 points lead, just over 10 points perhaps, something like that, in the championship. Now he'll be on 60 points, Jacko will be on 52, so in fact there's only an 8-point lead for Dom going into the second race of the season. It's such a shameful wheel loss, isn't it, because he was 4th in the championship coming to tonight, but plagued by connection issues in that race, so he can only lose quite a few positions in the championship. Mike Nguyen, though, was directly behind him in the championship heading into this race, and he hasn't picked up any points either because, of course, of his early DNF, and he totally misjudged how wet it was into the hairpin, went into the back of Dom, and then had to change the front wing and was all over the place after that. But anyway, let's see what surprises we get here in Brazil, and as you say, it's probably going to end up being a dry race now that we've been hyping up the weather around here, but we'll find out shortly.
It is possible that I may have mixed the drivers up when Dom and Mike had that incident. I may have thought it was Dom running into the back of Mike. I can't quite remember now, but
I'm pretty sure it was Mike went into the back of Dom.
Oh, he did, yeah, but I may have said it was the other way around. So apologies if I did. I can't really remember. Of course, it's live coverage, but the camera will show what happened anyway. So if I did mess up, then that is of course on me. Don't think anyone would have said otherwise. But anyway, looking like a pretty clear sky for qualifying. But we will give you a weather update as soon as we get one.
Well, indeed. As the drivers get ready then to go qualifying in this TGP2 session around Brazil. But fascinating fact for you here, Roy. This is the fourth round of this TGP2 season, and already we've raced. Now that we've got here to Brazil, we've already raced at all three venues of the F1 sprint races this season.
Oh, fantastic!
Just thought you'd like to know that.
th-
Obviously, it was in Austria last week, and now here we are in Brazil.
those sprints that the fans adore
Yep,
and want.
yep.
Well,
So I suppose we do sort of do a sprint race here, 25%, don't we? But yes. Anyway, just thought I'd mention that as the session gets underway and cars come out on the track. It's actually quite weird now, actually, when you flip around the cars and you see the black Mercedes. It suddenly doesn't look right again. After looking right, it suddenly now looks weird again. But anyway, Kaya is about to start his lap time, and just ahead of him is the Williams of... Who is the Williams who's just ahead of him?
it's not an L-Jack, so it'll be Mike Noon.
Yeah, it is Mike Noon, yeah.
Mike Noon, of course, our pole sitter from Canada.
Remember, Mike Noon has it. I don't think it was last season, was it? I think it was the season before. There was that very controversial safety car restart in TGP2 here in Brazil.
Yeah, which of course I think he was investigated for 2 incidents, and I believe he was penalised for 1, which actually cost him the race win in the end for erratic driving under the safety car. But let's see if he has learned from it, if indeed he is in a position to lead a safety car restart again. But his qualifying place in Canada was very promising, and I think, speaking from my own experience, getting used to the wet conditions on a wheel is not very easy. I think I've spun every single time we've done wet conditions in TGP1 since I've started using a wheel, so yeah, it's a very difficult thing to adapt to. But Mike Noon will be happy to see dry conditions out on track once again, and he'll be the first driver to set a lap time, and it's going to be valid unless he does something rather silly across the final corner. DRS open as it detection points before the line, and it's a 107.7 activation point, I should have said, not detection. But that's the initial benchmark, and Cena and Kaya unable to beat it.
Just watching Puccanen then come around the final corner, or the final proper corner. He's going to be on his straight run down to the finish line now then, and can he get anywhere near Mike Noon's initial time? Blair Grills has just gone third. Puccanen will go into second place. So still only Mike Noon in the 107s at the minute, so a solid start from Mike Noon in this session. Chris Johnson goes into third place. Really interested to see what Cena and Parzik can do in this race. Of course, they were battling for the lead here last season. They had that fantastic battle for the win. But there's been so many missed opportunities for Cena and Parzik throughout their history in TGP. And just very inconsistent, aren't they? So they can't fight for championships.
Yeah, if they sort out their inconsistency issues, then yeah, there will be championship opportunities waiting for them. But yeah, as you said, it's just never really happened. There's just been so many cases of, what could have been had it all been strung together. But let's see, Sayer Sports crossing the line, going quite wide through the official final corner, which the Las Vegas track designers took some inspiration from, an iconic corner. But I'm looking forward to the Vegas race, by the way. It doesn't look the most exciting qualifying lap, but I think the racing will be pretty spicy. But we'll wait another another 2 years to be able to do that in TGP, as Daniel P. Wheelnut crashes, exit turn 1.
Yeah, so he had such a good start last week, didn't he, to the championship, but it's not gone well for him this week because of connection issues and a crash in this qualifying. But who knows, maybe he can have a monster of a race. Just watching them to see if there's any drivers approaching the finish line. We've got Dom to set his first lap on the board, and it's actually only good enough for 9th, surprisingly.
9th out of 12 drivers who have managed to set a lap. How's Parsa doing? He's heading into turn 6. Keep forgetting the name of this corner. But here we go then. Is this... Which one's this? Pinarino or something? Palm tree?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
This is
To be honest,
Bico
I
de
should though.
Pato.
I usually like calling names, but Blagridles has just gone into second place.
He'll be happy with that if he can stay there. And Parsa then, and allegedly purple sector 2, but we all know that that's, well, not to be trusted. Got some lap time telemetry on there now, so his DRS is open. Now, will he go tight to the pit line? Or pit lane, I should say. He doesn't. Nobody does that. It really irritates me.
Yeah.
But P3 then for Parsa. And just like Blair Grills, if he can stay there, I think he'll be pretty pleased with that.
Dom's about to improve again, and he's going a little bit tighter towards the finish line and goes up into 7th place then. So it's actually very close, really. Only 4/10 from Blair Grills to Dom, from 2nd to 7th, but Mike Noon's got a pretty substantial lead at the moment.
Yeah, I think, speaking of inconsistency, I mean, Mike Noon is kind of the embodiment of it at the moment, but of course we know he is transferring to a different, driving medium, so it can be forgiven. Well, yeah, I mean, he was on a controller, but he's now, for this game, he's on the wheel.
Yeah.
But let's see then, Parsa, is he on a lap? I don't think he is. He'll be out of deployment anyway, so I mean, he'd be better off just pitting.
Yeah, he's pitting.
Indeed he does.
But meanwhile, his teammate seen it coming out of the pit lane, so they won't be able to give each other a tow just yet. But just seeing if anybody else on a lap. Mick Schumacher, I don't think he's on a lap. I think everybody is sort of in a bit of a cool-down period now after the first couple of runs. We have got Neljak, who looks like he's improving his lap time.
On medium.
He's about to come across the line. Yeah, he's still on the medium tyres. And now he's actually going to pit.
He was up on his time.
He was up, yeah.
It was
so
Kaya.
Baz and Neljak and Kaya are on medium tyres at the moment.
Paul McGee.
Wheelnut was also on medium tyres.
Got Paul McGee heading down, I believe it's Mergulio, into Junsao. He won't really get a tow. He would in real life, but on the game it's not quite so powerful. So Paul McGee in the Alfa Romeo, will he go tight to the inside wall? He does. And it's, well...
He's got a ball! Wow!
Wasn't expecting that, because we're halfway through the session pretty much, and there wasn't really any kind of delta to be compared with. And Paul McGee, do you know what? Historically, he has been very quick around this track. I believe he's taken pole in TGP1 around here.
Yeah, I remember he used to be so quick around Brazil in TGP1, and here he is in TGP2 after a while away. And wow, on pole by 4/10.
Well, there's quite the statement. Mike Noon is on a lap. He's only in the first sector then. So let's see how this first sector time is. He's up on his own time, but he's going to have to find a bit more time in the rest of the track. I think he's went a little bit wider through turn 4.
Dina here, who's going to get a very good exit here, and well, again, he could have got a tow, but he probably won't. But I think he's going to improve big time, and I suspect he's going to join the 107 club here as well. And he does stay tight to the line, and he crosses it, and he goes into 3rd place.
Let's see then, Mike Noon probably a bit deep through Bico de Pato. Of course, it's a place where you can very easily lose the rear of the car. Mergulio should be easily flat, and Mike Noon then, it's a very quick middle sector. Now, how was his exit through Junsao? All he has to do now is keep his foot flat to the floor, stay tight to the inside line, and will he do that? Yes, he will. Mike Noon crosses the line, and he does indeed snatch back that provisional pole position by 0.5 of a second. So we have quite the battle for pole position.
We do it indeed. It's very, very close, isn't it, between the top two right now? Then let's see if anybody else can get into the 107s. Here comes Jacko, tight to the line across the finish, and 108.087 then. So only 5th place for him. The championship leader Dom is just coming out the pit lane now. He's in 10th. So we might have another jumbled up grid. Here comes Poop Cannon.
Grills.
Coming towards the line.
He's up
Yeah,
on
but
his
it's
time to the
Buchanan.
first
Then
two
it's going to be.
sectors, goes very wide, but it's P3. He's in that 107 club. He's broken into it. Can Blair Grills do the same? He can indeed. It's P3. It's a 107.6. Still a good bit away from the top two, though. They're 3/10 clear of Blair Grills in P2. Cena is on a lap. Have we got someone who's a bit further down the lap? Baza is not on a lap. Parsa is at turn 3. Chris Johnson has invalidated his lap.
He has indeed, yeah. So, well, 7 minutes to go, and what a grid this will be for the race. But surely Dom is going to improve significantly. Surely he will have the pace to get in there with the guys towards the front of the field. And Jacko, though, still only down in 6th place. I think he'd like to be quite a bit higher as well.
The thing with Brazil, though, is that qualifying, it's not the most important.
Tell you what, look at Cena here. Cena's 3/10 up, and he actually might get a bit of a toe this time from Baza as well. This could be a possible pole lap for Cena. Oh, it's a bit dodgy. I think he's trying to stay within the toe of Baza. Goes towards the line, tight alongside the wall. Oh, no, he actually lost a bit of time in the final sector there, and in the end is in 4th place. But if he kept up the gap he had after crossing the 2nd sector point, he would have been at least in 3rd.
Chris Johnson's improving his lap. I don't think it's going to be enough to cause any substantial move up, but he could find himself jumping up into the top 8. Currently running in P10. Now, unless his final sector on his previous lap was pretty poor, I don't think he's going to jump any higher than, let's say, 7th, but he crosses the line, and it's P5, so his final sector in that final lap was actually, or the previous lap was quite poor. So Chris Johnson, I think he'll be pretty pleased if he can stay in that top 5.
Dom.
But Dom, as you say, is on a lap, half a second up on his previous time, which he's going to need to find a little bit more on that final sector. Let's see, Dom then crosses the line. P8. But it's a very tight grid.
But Paul's crashed out. Paul has crashed out of the session at turn 4. So he's obviously lost it and gone into the wall. It's very easy to do that. But that is such a shame. He was probably going to go for 1 or 2 more laps to try and go even quicker. And considering that was his first lap of the session, you would assume he could have been able to go quite a bit quicker. But we will never know because he is in the barrier.
Oh, what could have been for Paul McGee. But looking at the kind of gap he's been able to pull over the rest of the field, I mean, you'd imagine he will at least start on the front 2 rows. So disaster certainly averted for Paul. He did get that very solid banker lap in there. I mean, who knows? It could have been a banker lap for him, but with a lot more pace in there. But the other drivers really struggling to beat it. And who have we got on laps at the moment? Dom, I believe, is on an in lap. Indeed, he is. Jack, I believe, is on a lap. Actually, no, he's not. I see the light flashing. Kaya is on a lap. Let's see what the Mercedes driver can do. Currently running in P16. He's kept it valid so far. Doesn't have a whole lot of deployment at his disposal. But I don't see the light flashing though, so I think he is pushing on this lap. Did he use overtake on the out lap? He's up on his time, so I think he may be doing that. But the Mercedes driver then marginally up on his previous time. Let's see what he can do. I believe he's the only driver who's actually on a lap. And he is indeed crossing the line with 1% battery, now 0. Improves his time, not his position. And we currently now have nobody actually on a flying lap. But I believe a Ferrari is about to change that. And it's Jacko. Let's see what the Ferrari driver can do. He probably wanted to be a little bit tighter through turn 1 to open up turns 2 and 3 and keep as tight as he can to the inside of turn 3. Really hug that apex. Jacko then with the DRS wide open into turn 4. Now you don't want to run too wide here, and you don't want to take too much inside curb either. Turn 5 then, don't take too much curb there, because we saw what happened to Paul McGee. It can spit you out and put you into the wall. Now up the hill through turns 6 and 7. He's a bit wide through turn 7, but he keeps it under control. Takes as much curb through turn 8 as you possibly can to open up turn 9. Slight kink now before Bico to Pato. You want to hit the apex nicely through here, but don't unsettle the rear on exit. Misses the apex ever so slightly. Looks like a fairly solid exit down now, flat out through Mergulio into Junsao. Very difficult corner to execute, uphill on the exit. Looks like he's got pretty decent traction. Where can the Ferrari driver find himself after this? Don't take too much curb on the inside because it can spit you out. DRS now wide open through the official final corner of the circuit. Jacko crosses the line. It's P7.
Well, good to have the top two in the championship here, quite down the order. Although Dom now on an out lap then. We've got some other drivers pushing on some proper laps. Tell you what, Cena was pushing so hard in the first couple of corners on this lap. But I think he might have had a bit of traffic there with Neljak. That might have held him up slightly. We'll see what happens when he comes towards the end of the lap. With Cena who's ahead of him. I don't think there's anybody really. Buchanan's invalidated his lap. So Buchanan looks like he was definitely improving, but he's invalidated. Parson invalidated. Got quite a few invalidations at the minute. So I think it will come down to Cena then for the time being. But he's actually backed off. Yeah, I think he did get traffic from Neljak, and he's going to try again.
I was going to say, if someone could set a valid lap time, it would be very much appreciated. I don't think there is actually anybody on any particular charge. As you say, Cena will be going again.
Dom is just ahead of him as well, so Dom is also on a lap now, and he knows he's got to get a really good lap in here because it's starting to get a bit critical now. But Blair Gill's coming through the final couple of corners. You're 10th and a half up, and if he can get a good exit and a good run towards the line, could he trouble the top two?
Let's see then, Blair Grills in the McLaren, DRS wide open across the line, stays in the middle of the circuit. He improves his time, which may secure himself a top 3 position, but he's not troubling the top 2, who are both done for the session. They will not be finding any sort of improvement. Jacko's not on a lap. Magic Poop Cannon, however, is, and he's 3/10 up on his previous best, so he may be able to get ahead of Blair Grills. And was that a bit of understeer through Junsao? But he should be on for an improvement nonetheless. Should get at least a top 4 as things stand. He crosses the line. Magic Poop Cannon. It's P4 with a 107.6.
And here comes Dom.
Then. Here comes Dom at first. So Dom, it's only P7.
But I think the way he was angled across the track makes me think he's going for another lap. And it looks like he is pushing for another lap. And Cena's just behind him as well. So Cena is also having to go once again. So this qualifying session is not over. Blair Gills is invalidated, so he won't be improving either. So the top 3 will not be improving. Chris Johnson's invalidated.
Yeah, it's over for Chris Johnson and Jacko. They will not be finding any kind of improvement. Parsa, meanwhile, looks pretty good to find an improvement. Just about keeps it on the right side of the line. And Parsa jumps up into the top 4, less than a 10th behind Blair Grills. So Parsa then rescues it at the end of the session. But of course, as you say, we've got Cena and Dom both on laps. Dom heading through Mergulio now. He did find some marginal improvement in the first sector. And look at this fantastic coordination from the Alpine team. And I think Magic Pipkin may want to slow down just a little bit more. I think he's a little bit too far ahead for Dom to get any actual benefit from this. But Dom then crosses the line. He's currently P8, jumps up into P6. I think he'll be relatively pleased with that. Cena will not improve.
Cena's pitting. Yeah, well, he's not pitting, he's hitting the wall. I think he probably pressed pause to retire from session and it resets him back onto the track. But that's such a shame for Cena because he definitely had the pace to go so much quicker there. Once again, one of those cases that he just couldn't sadly get a better lap in. Jacko only in 9th place. Dom in 6th place then. So top 2 in the championship. Going to have to fight the way through the field here.
Yeah, I don't think Dom will be too disgruntled with a top 6, but it is a track you can overtake at, so qualifying really isn't everything around here. But your grid then, because the positions kept changing all the time at the end there, we've got Mike Noon and Paul McGee on the front row of the grid, and they've kind of just been there for the vast majority of the session, so there wasn't a lot of movement there. But behind them, we've got Blair Grills in 3rd with Parsa in 4th, Magic Poop Cannon and Dom Smith in the Alpines in 5th and 6th. Cena is 7th with Chris Johnson 8th. Jacko a disappointing 9th with Baza rounding out the top 10. Now the drivers who will have fresh tyres at the start of the race are M. Shep, Sayer Sports, Neljak, Wheelnut a very disappointing 14th, Mick Schumacher 15th, followed by Kaya, Red Bull Kim and Mr. John. So I think the driver to probably watch out for in the race, I would say, would be Wheelnut, rather out of position in 15th.
I think the drivers to be watching at the start are Dom and Cena because we know how good the starts usually are. And they start on in 6th and 7th for this one, so you would imagine they're both going to get off to a flyer as a much more overcast day for the race, but we are expecting it to be a fully dry one.
So cooler conditions then might be beneficial for the tyre wear, but let's see how Mike and Paul get off the line on the front row.
Can Paul fight for the victory? Wouldn't that be incredible?
It will be fantastic to see. We know he's got a lot of pace around here and he'll be very wary of that curb, so better to learn your lessons in qualifying than in the race. But we're getting ready to go then in Brazil. It's an uphill start here and the lights are on the gantry and we are underway in Brazil, and it looks like a pretty solid start from Mike Noon. Then Paul McGee getting a bit of wheel spin at the start. Blair Grills immediately up into P2, but Paul McGee breaks later into turn 1, and Paul McGee is now back up into second place. Cena is now up into third after starting in 7th, but Mike Noon and Paul McGee doing what they set out to do, and they are currently running in P1 and 2, and we have contact behind, I believe.
It was Paul. Paul got a massive slide in turn 4 and nearly lost it. Don't know how he saved that. That was unbelievable from my camera view, and he's still sliding all over the place. I think he's struggling with tyre warm-up here. He's really struggling.
As we have M. Shep going for a spin at the back of the field, but Paul McGee now, he can now settle into a rhythm. He's not under any kind of immediate threat from the two AlphaTauris right behind him. Dom Smith remains in 6th. I don't think he'd be too disappointed with that. It's Magic Poop Cannon who had a fairly poor start, dropping 2 places. But Mike Noon then, he'll be very happy that it's dry, unlike the start at Canada. But he's got Paul McGee keeping well within a second of the driver in front. He just needs to play it smart with the deployment here, because I don't think Paul has a massive amount of racing experience on this game, but Paul McGee looking pretty solid as we get underway in Brazil.
Well, I'll tell you what, another flying start by Cena there. I'm starting to wonder if it's just the AlphaTauris that are OP on starts or something, because he seems to do quite well in TGP as well. It's just unbelievable. Paul goes a bit wide at turn 4, this Nemesis corner, and he's way off the circuit. He's got to try and recover. Oh, again, wow, how close does he want to get? How many risks does he want to take through that corner? Because he's falling behind the wall, and again he's sliding around the circuit.
I think Paul is willing to take risks here. I think he's not looking for the championship. I don't believe he is full-time in TGP2, so he just wants to have fun out there, and if a win is available, he wants to take every risk to get it. It's going to be a win it or bin it mentality for the Alfa Romeo driver, and despite his incidents, despite his little kind of skirmishes throughout the race so far, look at this, he's only 4/10 behind, but he is using a bit of his battery. But then again, he's not really used the whole. Yeah,
it's the same really as Mike Noon's.
So Paul
DRS enabled this lap, and despite sliding all over the place, he still set the fastest lap that time round as well. He's got so much pace around here. We've got a car off, it's Bazza, but hopefully that's not going to cause any safety car, because Paul closes in, and this is the corner where he's so risky, and he goes a bit wide. He would have got a warning for that, but he did not go off the circuit.
And Paul now actually has more deployment than Mike Noon.
Oh no! Oh, Paul! He gave it everything, and he was threatening to do that for quite some time, it has to be said. And it's a virtual safety car, and sadly, he was fighting for the win. You said it was a win or bin mentality, and sadly, he's binned it.
There was no... I don't think there was a whole, real need to push through that particular corner, because you don't really see
and he was doing it every lap as well.
Yeah, like he was able to afford to back off a little bit through that corner, because he was easily able to keep within a second of Mike. I think he was able to afford to drop a 10th in that corner, but he's out of the race.
All three laps he was sliding around there.
Chris Johnson
and eventually
hits.
It had to happen. I'm so disappointed. But Chris Johnson then decided to make the most of this VSC. We're going to try and then go to the end on the medium tyres. Got Mr. John, Red Bull Kim, and Baz in as well. Baz had that spin, didn't he? So just taking a risk. And Chris Johnson hasn't moved. I think that was a bit of a glitch. He's actually got the hard tyres on.
Oh no.
So, not sure you want that, do
I think
you?
that was a mistake. I think that's one of those pre-programmed strategies. For some reason, Codemasters thinks that's a viable tyre in a 25% race. But, oh, it's disaster for Chris Johnson.
At least he's got his full pit stop in. Because this has been a very long VSC.
He has.
And I think they're all going to get the full stop in. The guys who just pitted.
Oh,
Tom's got the drive through. Tom, the championship leader. And Blake Grill's just ahead of him.
Two drive-throughs then, there we go. Blair Grills and Dom Smith. Wow. Now Dom has always said, you know, pit as soon as you get it. Will Dom follow his own advice? He's got his teammate who looks a little bit quicker than him at the moment. Anyway, will Dom jump straight into the pits? Yes, he will. I thought Pip Cannon was going to follow him in there for a second. But, wow, that's not the kind of mistake you typically see from Dom, I've got to say. Normally Mr. Consistent out there, but, well, at least it wasn't race 500, just race 501, which is not a nice round number, so no one really cares. So, he does his drive-through. Not the worst track to get a drive-through at, but, I mean, look at that. He's dropped from, what was he in, 5th to 12th,
yeah, he's just going to be out ahead of the guys. And don't forget, Chris Johnson's already made a stop in this race. So he's come out side by side with Chris pretty much. And Chris is already a full pit stop ahead of him now. What a disaster for Dom. But I tell you, someone who's having a brilliant race. Wheelnut, who of course crashed out, was down in 14th. He's now in 6th place. He overtook Sayers Sports there at that restart. And he's now right on the back of Jacko.
I think Chris Johnson may have the net lead here. He's 22 seconds back. I'm not entirely sure of what the pit lane loss here. I mean, I think that would be a very helpful AWS
round the outsides
graphic as
again.
Well,
he's made the move.
Look at that DRS. Yeah, so it looks like he's got great traction in that Mercedes. And I thought Jacko was going to try to fight it back there, but Wheelnut, yeah, it looks like he has a huge amount of pace. He is on the soft tyres. I was wondering, did he go with the alternate strategy? Because that would have been extra impressive, but doesn't quite have DRS on Poop Cannon, but you'd imagine with the pace he's got right now, that could very well become the case on the next lap. As we see Mike Noon leading from Cena and Parsa. So it's the three drivers who in Canada you'd be thinking, well, what could have been? They are now leading as Red Bull Kim has crashed in the final sector with another
VSC.
Virtual safety car.
Oh, now this actually might be helpful. This might not go in the way of Chris Johnson's favour, especially if these guys now pit. Do we think they'll pit?
I think they will, because the mediums will last. And even if you only get half your pit stop in, that's still better than. That's still.
I would agree.
Will Mike Noon pit? He's
will.
Coming in.
He's in. Now, Willie AlphaTauri is after Q here.
Cena stays
out.
No,
Cena's
another...
continuing.
Oh,
so
why have they both done it? Oh, no. Okay, well, maybe if the safety car comes out later on.
We're back on the way.
Oh, genius from AlphaTauri.
It was genius from AlphaTauri. And Neljack's got a drive-through. Neljack got a drive. He's at the back of the pack. I think, did Bazza get one there as well? I'll have to check in a minute. But anyway, here comes Mike Noon into the pit lane. And I'm just going to see where he comes out here compared to Chris Johnson. He's just coming around the exit now, and I think he will be out ahead of Chris, won't he? Chris is still trying to get past Dom. He hasn't managed to do so. So Mike Noon is out then in the net lead, despite the fact that only half of his stop was covered under the VSC.
I mean, half of it is still significantly better than nothing, so I think any kind of extra tyre wear he would get from pitting 2 or 3 laps early, I think that will be more than compensated by the slow pace of the rest of the field. But Mike Noon now has a bit of traffic to negotiate now.
Whoa!
Will M-Chef make life difficult when we have an incident?
Kaya and Dom there. Dom was going for the overtake on Kaya, but they both went off the track, and Chris Johnson has just sneaked through.
Chris Johnson then on those hard compound tyres, really doesn't want to be on those tyres, but I think unless there's a safety car, there's no real point pitting. The driver's behind him. I think Magic Poop Cannon has pitted. But
here comes Mike Noon now going on to Shep for 6th place. So he continues to make his way through the field then after the stop, and the top 5 have still all stayed out.
As Mike Noon It was nowhere near the apex of turn one based on what I just saw from M-Shep's view. M-Shep does have a fair amount of deployment. He's not using it at the moment. I think, yeah, he's breaking the toe. He wants no interest. He has no interest in passing Mike. He's happy to stay where he is. He knows that Mike is not his race, so intelligent driving from M-Shep. Sayre Sports is within a second of Jacko for P3 on the road.
Chris Johnson
on the soft tyres. Chris Johnson
nearly losing it. He's doing a Paul here. He's all over the place, sliding around like crazy. But I think that for Chris Johnson's sake, it might be because he's on those hard tyres.
Yeah, you never want to be on those hard tyres in a 25% race. It's just not a viable option ever. As we see Cena coming into the pits. Yeah, I suppose it makes sense, but we'll have to see how he fares in relation to Mike Noon, of course, and Baza.
Baza's had he must have had the big dramatic spin,
yes,
which has put him halfway across the track, and he's being unfairly given a penalty for it. Cena almost dropping it did on the exit of the pit lane.
Mike Noon's
who's
already ahead.
Come out against here? Yeah, there's Mike Noon. Blake Girls hasn't pitted. Now, can he get out ahead of Chris Johnson? I think he will quite comfortably. Yeah.
But yeah, so Mike Noon actually he's a good bit clear of Cena then. So I think Mike Noon getting those few seconds under the VSC for his pit stop has still been
very important.
Yeah, I think the gap was around 1.7 seconds, around that kind of margin, and the gap is now. Let me try and do maths with numbers that keep changing. It's more than that. That's I think it's 2.7. I think, but and the thing is though, like I think Cena probably would have been better off staying out another lap, just to offset any kind of tyre wear. But
well, there's Parser in now. Parser also now in. Jacko stays out. Then Jacko will take the lead of the race because it's such a huge advantage for Jacko to gain on Dom in the championship after Dom now at the back. He made his stop on the last lap, his proper stop, as Mick Schumacher is defending from Mike Noon here, making it very difficult for him. Oh, he nearly lost it on the curb, and Cena gets a penalty, and Shepard actually gone back through on Cena there because but Mike Noon nearly dropped it. Now he goes for Mick Schumacher into turn 4. If they make contact, my goodness, maybe fantastic. Oh, Mick Schumacher loses it, and he's gone off onto the grass. He's just kept it out the barrier, and I finished off my sentence there by saying it would be fantastic for Cena, not it would be fantastic just generally.
Right, fair enough. Cena then stuck behind Mick Schumacher.
Oh, Chris is off on the hard tyres. He's lost it. Turn 4. Well, middle of the track basically pretty much, but goes from bad to worse for him. He shouldn't have put those hard tyres on.
Yeah, I think sometimes the game does set you on for hard tyres. I don't know why it does that, but I would highly doubt it was a deliberate thing to do, but yeah, you should always check your strategy. But we've got some cars pretty close to each other. We've got Mick Schumacher. He's darting into the pits, taking a very aggressive steering angle into that pit lane. Jacko also pits then, so let's see where the Ferrari driver ends up in relation to the rest of the field. And well, to be honest, they're kind of spread out really, so I think Jacko will be 7th and not really under any significant threat from the Aston Martin.
Just ahead of him is Will Nutt and Magic Poop Cannon here battling for 5th place now on the road. They're both having very decent races. Of course, Poop Cannon pitted under that Verse BSC, didn't he? And Magic Poop Cannon is into 5th place now then. Will Nutt in 6th and Jacko comes out in 7th.
And Mike Noon kind of having his own way out in front because it's Parsa who is driver in 2nd place if you add up those penalties for the drivers in front. So all Mike Noon then has to do is stay on the track, which M-Shep has not managed to do.
He's not out of the race.
Is not out of the race. Okay, that's
unbelievable.
He's hit that barrier at the perfect angle, but it's just a local yellow flag as Dom Smith picks up a 3-second penalty. So disaster for him. He's 14. He's 10 seconds behind Mick Schumacher. Parsa and Cena,
side by side.
The two AlphaTauri drivers. Parsa does not get the run out of turn 2, but he will surely now have DRS heading down into turn 4. He's got way more deployment. He's been managing that far better than his teammate up ahead. And if they want to play the team game, then surely Cena
Yeah.
shouldn't really fight this too hard if they care about the constructors at all, that is. But I suppose they might be thinking, well, maybe we're not going to catch Mike. But then again, despite all of that, Cena's gap has remained the same to Mike. In fact, it's actually closing in a little bit. It keeps kind of, it's around that 2.8 to 3 second gap. But
Does
Parsa
Parsa
then,
have the pace to win this? Perhaps he's on 3 laps that are 3 lap tyres that are younger than Mike Noon's, and but Cena's not going to make it easy for him. Meanwhile, Wheelock got back past Poop Cannon in the midst of all that, so it's Wheelock now in 4th place, Poop Cannon in 5th. But is Parsa now going to have a run on Cena, and will Cena just move over? Because Parsa might be able to close in on Mike Noon without the penalty, but again, doesn't move over there, and you've got a car out.
oh,
It's
it's Dom.
Dom
He's
spun, the championship leader.
Is it?
And
It's safety
it's a full
car.
safety car. It is a full safety car.
Well,
What? This is a dramatic race, isn't it? And now we have a full safety car just as Parsa was about to have another go on Cena, and we're going to have a sprint finish for about 2 or 3 laps, I think. 3 laps, I think it'll be. And Chris Johnson dives into the pit lane. He'll want to get off those hard tyres.
yes.
Mick Schumacher, Kyle also in. Now, will he just put a fresh set of softs on? Surely they will. They will indeed. And we are going to have quite some finish to this race.
Cena nearly came to a complete stop. Well, maybe he actually did, but Parsa almost hit the back of his teammate there. Now Jack picking up another needless penalty. He can pit at the next lap, and he'll be fine to do so. He can get rid of it, but he's not back anyway. But yeah, smart move from Chris Johnson. Did he actually lose any places from doing that?
I think he lost a position to Shep, but that's all.
Well, then he'll be absolutely
Mike
fine.
Noon's pitted! Mike Noon's pitted!
What's he done that for? Well, okay, he's probably... Where will he end up? Will he end up behind the Ferrari of Jacko? I think he could end up 6th here.
What? Why is he doing this?
Maybe he just wants to have fun, but then again, he's a full-time driver. You never
he's
know.
fighting for the championship. Poop Cannon's come in as well. Poop Cannon's come in, and so is Josiah. I'm really surprised at that. But Mike Noon, is he going to beat Jacko out the pit lane? It's going to be close, is it? No, it won't be close. Jacko is out ahead. So after all that, Mike Noon, who's dominated this race, is now finds himself in 5th place. And, well, we won't get to see what happens with a safety car restart with Mike Noon again then, because he's just handed a 1-2 at the minute to AlphaTauri. But the race leader, Cena, has a penalty.
Maybe that's why he went to the pits.
Wheelock, who crashed in qualifying and has had a great race, is now in a net second.
Yeah, I just, because Mike... I suppose he didn't know what the drivers behind were going to do, but at the same time, the driver in second has a 3-second penalty, which Mike doesn't have. So, he was controlling the race the whole time. He took pole position, and the only driver who was close to him in qualifying is out of the race. So, it's a strange one, but of course he does have a lot of pace in that car, but he's going to have to get aggressive, and he's only going to have 3 laps to do it, to jump from 5th to at least 2nd, depending on if Cena is still leading the race. So yeah, I can't really make a huge amount of sense from that one, but it's not, he's still in the ballpark, but as M-Shep once again...
Shep is out the race, has he?
Collision with
that.
Blair Grills.
Oh, it must have been... Oh, and he's hit the...
Blair Grills
is out as
How's
well.
that happen? He's on his own.
That was while he was warming up his tyres. He was warming up his tyres, weaving about all the way down the straight and lost it. So did Blair Grills make contact with Shep, and Shep hit the pit lane entry wall, and Blair Grills has probably maybe had a bit of damage and has still been warming up his tyres and has gone off himself into the wall.
Well, drama behind the safety car again. It's the second time tonight that M-Shep has crashed under safety car conditions. Blair Grills will pick up a point for his efforts, but scant consolation.
Blair Grills was feeling a bit guilty as well and decided to just crash out, but it did look like he was just weaving his tyres, weaving around the track there, warming up his tyres. But anyway, That's another 2 drivers out the race. This is dramatic stuff then. We've got Kyle in 10th place here with no penalty.
So effectively P9 then for Kyle. Or you'd imagine the drivers behind will be keen to pass the Mercedes. Every driver who's currently on the track is guaranteed points. As we see Parsa then, car number 2 with the default helmet. It would be appreciated if he did design his own, but anyway, the safety car is in this lap. Now, how will Cena decide to control the pace? Safety car is slower than the drivers would like.
Either Cena thinks he's going to have the gap to pull 3 seconds on his teammates, or maybe he'll make it slightly easy for Parsa to gift them the win. We're about to find out then. There's the safety car into the pit lane, and Cena's going to have to drop it eventually, and he does now.
Well, I mean, he kind of didn't really slow down a whole lot anyway. He kind of just kept going as we see moves further behind. Mike Noon is already fighting with Jacko, and he gets a big kick of oversteer heading out of turn 2. Jacko's still behind somehow, but Mike Noon is already up into P4, and out in front then Cena still leads from Parsa. I suppose Cena just needs to get on with it, but I think
Mike Noon's got a bit hit the inside curb at turn 4, nearly lost the car but got away with it. He was so lucky there, but anyway, it's cost him a bit of time, but he's still trying to close in on the top 3.
And it's getting pretty fruity behind as Chris Johnson tries to go down the inside at turn number 8 on Magic Poop Can. I don't know if Magic Poop Can hit the back of Jacko there, but Chris Johnson, I think he's been hit by Mick Schumacher just behind, and I think he has, as Mick Schumacher tries to go around the outside of Bico de Pato, and I don't think Chris Johnson's going to have the traction here. And it's Mick Schumacher who gets the inside line through Mergulio, through Junsao now. Chris Johnson, after all that, somehow loses a place, but Mike Noon is all over the back of Daniel P. Wheelnut. He's dumping that ERS down the pit straight, and we all know that Mike loves a good dive bomb, loves to be late on the brakes, and he's got a tyre advantage here. So will he throw it down the inside of Wheelnut? Yes, he will, and he takes P3 here. So Mike Noon then is effectively up into P2 at the moment. As things stand, all he has to do is pass Parsa. DRS not yet enabled. He's not using his deployment, which is a very good tactic from Mike, because I think even if he did, he would not have the advantage. So Mike Noon then is 2/10 behind the net race leader as things stand. So this may still work out for Mike here.
Well, he's made this a whole lot more stressful. He's
decided to go for it now, and well, I mean, credit where credit's due. The move was clean, and Parsa is still there. They're side by side through the middle sector in Brazil. Now, will Parsa decide to launch it up the inside? He does keep his nose in there, so Mike Noon can't just turn in and hit the apex. Parsa will have the slipstream heading down the pit straight. Now, how will his exit be through Junsao? Probably worse than Mike's, you'd imagine, with that tyre deficit, and indeed it is. So Mike Noon then effectively retakes the lead. Now, how defensive will Cena be? Cena already has run out of deployment, whereas Mike Noon is actually in the best position out of all of the top 3, and look how much quicker he is in his Williams compared to the 2 AlphaTauris around him. You'd imagine down this straight he's going to get him, because he's got 1/3 of his deployment left. Cena already derating on the exit of turn 3, and he decides to go up the inside with the very limited space that he had, and Mike Noon retakes the lead in Brazil. Didn't make life easy for himself, but he made it entertaining for us, I suppose, so I think he'll be pretty pleased with that. Mike Noon retakes the lead on the final lap of the race. There was nothing Cena could do, and of course Cena still has that penalty, so he will drop positions at the end. But look how close it is between the top 5. There's only about half a second between each car, sometimes less, as Magic Poop Cannon looks way...
I thought he was going to go for it.
He got picked up a penalty. He'll probably drop 2 places from that. Jacko passes Chris Johnson. Someone's gone for a spin behind. Joe Sayers out of the race on the final race. But we've obviously no safety car because it is the final lap of the race. And through the final few corners comes the Williams of Mike Noon. Mike Noon then takes a brilliant win in Sao Paulo. Crosses the line. P1. Parsa is second. Wheelnut from P15.
The 2 Red Bulls. The 2 Red Bulls were side by side across the line, but Neljak had a penalty. He's in the Williams, wasn't he? And did the Ferrari finish ahead? I don't know, but they were all side by side, and it was incredibly close, and it was incredibly exciting, and what a brilliant race.
Wheelnut driver of the day, no surprise, P15 to the podium. Well, we didn't get the changeable conditions, but we still got an exciting race nonetheless. Mike Noon didn't really need to do that, but well, his moves were decisive and they were clean, and I suppose in a way necessary. I suppose he didn't need to pass Parsa where he did. He would have got past him anyway. You would have imagined, but the opportunity was there, and
And look at so across the line it was Mick Schumacher 10.824, Mr. John 10.870. So it was so close across the line, those two. But excellent race. And Jacko then in the terms of the championship, it was 8 points the gap, and it will now, I think it will be 10 points, won't it? So Jacko will retake the lead on the championship.
yeah, it was strangely erratic race from Dom there. Normally he's very composed when he races, and slight correction, Wheel started 14th, but either way, an impressive drive nonetheless. No real time to run through the full order, so I'll just scroll through it on the screen. But I think the big stories there: Paul McGee and Dom Smith retiring from the race. It was Baza in the end who picked up the fastest lap at the 1:08.7. He will get the fastest lap point thanks to the Joe Sayer point system. Top 14 drivers are eligible for that point. But quite the erratic race out there.
Dramatic night as EGP then. Two very, very entertaining races. And Parser actually won the night with the most points on 33. But it's so obviously, because we've been talking about exclusively pretty much in the sense of the championship about Dom and Jacko, but that's because they had a big lead coming into tonight over the others. But no doubt, certainly in that second race, the likes of Parser and Mike Noon obviously will have closed up as well, so they'll be right in play for next week too.
Yeah, so there's, as usual in TGP2, we see drivers who have a lot of pace but perhaps lack consistency. And to be honest, I think if it was dry in Canada, I think Mike Noon would have fared a lot better than he did. Well, I mean, he couldn't have fared too much worse, I suppose, given that he crashed. But you know what I mean. But yeah, hopefully then, if those AlphaTauri drivers can pick up a bit more consistency, then we will have a really tasty battle for the rest of the season. But of course, I mean, we're probably going to have one regardless, with Dom and Jacko right up there. So you never know. You never know. Anyway, so we will be back this time next week. Well, not this time next week, but around 7:30 on Wednesday next week. And for two more very exciting races heading your way. Hopefully
Japan and Australia.
There we go. So we're heading east. So set your alarms then. Japan and Australia. They should be some pretty interesting races there. They're two very, very challenging tracks to nail on this game in particular. But hopefully you will join us then. And yeah, we'll be sure to bring you some more thrilling action. Good night.